evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board of Trustees. We will begin our meeting as we do every meeting so far by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call members.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Good evening, Glenna Yale from the 2nd District.
Tom Smith, 3rd District.
Mark Giaquina, member at large. He will be here shortly.
Ann Duff, District at Large.
And Jordan Lebamoff is not with us tonight. And I'm Julie Hollingsworth, District 1. And to my far left, Barb Trout, the secretary to the board, and Dr. Robinson, our superintendent. Good evening.
Good evening.
And here he is.
Sorry about that.
I did your introduction.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a case pending that affects the schools. It's the big box litigation, and there's a deadline tomorrow for the cities and towns to file an amicus, and so giving them a little help, because that's important to us, right, Kathy?
So no date yet for...
For a hearing, no,
Okay.
but I'll let you know.
Yeah, I would like to know. First up on our agenda is awards and recognition, of which there are none. Next is the consent agenda, which includes things that come to us on a recurring basis. They include the minutes from our last meeting on January 9th, vouchers and payroll for the period ending vouchers ending January 23rd and payroll ending January 6th, and those are kept on file for anyone in the public to view. And then the personnel report. And Dr. Robinson, was there anything on the personnel report you wanted to highlight?
Not this evening, thank you.
Okay.
Madam President, I move the approval of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's passed. We have no old business, so that brings us to new business. And first of all, I assume by state law, we have to each year have a meeting of the Board of Finance, which incidentally is the same as this board. So, someone like to, well, I hereby indicate that the Board of Finance meeting is now open. It's recommended that the Board of School Trustees conduct a Board of Finance meeting and that the officers of the Board of School Trustees are also named the officers of the Fort Wayne Community School Board of Finance according to board bylaws. It's also recommended that the 2016 investment report is reviewed. State law requires that a Board of Finance meeting be conducted in January of each year. At the meeting, the Board of Finance is required to name officers and review an annual investment report and investment policy of the district. So attached to this, we have a review of our investments, which are contain our cash balances and are deposited at several area banks. And for the year 2016, we earned a little over $900,000 for an average interest rate of 0.85%. And on the back of that, we have our policy for investment income. So,
Madam President, at this time, I would move the approval of the officers of the Fort Wayne Community, the officers of the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board of Finance, together with approval of policy number 6144. I mean, it's already a policy, but would move, the.
Approval.
I guess approval of the review of that policy. Is there
So you're,
anything else we need to do tonight, Kathy?
It was really to review the finance report, that's not the policy, but the report that is attached to
But the deposits
yeah.
are made pursuant to the
Right.
policy. So,
Correct, that's correct.
right.
Yep.
and you're satisfied that that all of the money shown on the report have been deposited and divided in accordance with policy 6144?
Yes.
Madam President, I move approval.
Second the recommendation.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
I did just have one question. With respect to interest earnings, what did we do in 2015? Was it about the same amount?
It was a little bit less. It was 713,000 the year before, which was an average rate of 0.58% instead of 0.85%. So still far below where we used to be back in 2007, when much better times back then.
Okay.
And then who is our treasurer that is able to make, move the monies around? and-
Sherry Neidlinger is the treasurer.
Okay,
of
that's
the
right.
district.
We already appointed
Yep.
her
Right.
Yep.
for the position. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
Decide to, put any of this on the Super Bowl, I'd be happy to talk about it. No? Okay.
No.
Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that is carried. And by the way, if any of you would like to take any of these items to read, I'm definitely open to that suggestion. Anyone would like to take Refugee Children School Impact Grant?
Take it.
Okay, Ann, thank you.
It is recommended that the board approve the application for and acceptance of the Refugee Children's School Impact Grant for 2016-17 in the amount of $23,950 from the Indiana Department of Education. Funds from this grant will allow for the continuation of a range of supplemental services for the district's refugee students who are limited English proficient within their first 2 years in the United States. The grant supports interpreters to provide ongoing support for the students and their families, supplemental instructional materials, and personnel and materials to support family engagement through home visits. This non-competitive grant, written by Emily Schwartz-Kearns, ELL manager, supports advancement intended and outlined in the Fortin Community Schools District Goal 1, Achieve and Maintain Academic Excellence, and Goal 2, Engage Parents and the Community. Questions will be answered by Tracy Williams, Chief Academic Officer.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second?
I so move.
Thanks, Glenna.
I'll second that.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Any questions or comments? How many students do we serve with this?
We currently have about 790 refugee students in the district.
Okay. And remind me, for a student who is identified as being part of this program, do they have to take I-STEP their very first, if they're their very first year here in the school system?
Their very first year, I don't believe so, but I'm going to defer to Emily to confirm that.
Thanks, Emily.
Sure. Yeah, it's all of our ELL students, when they're classified as limited English proficient, if they're new to the United States, they're exempt from the language arts portion of I-STEP their first year. They do have to take math and any other tested subjects at their grade level.
Okay.
And it's just that first year.
But of course, many of the math questions are only written, or is it in, they get it's written in English, correct, but they have a, is there a translation of it, or?
No, there's
No.
no translation allowed on the standardized test. Some students can have a read aloud accommodation, where if there's online testing, it'll be read aloud to them through their headphones.
But
In English. In English. Yes.
So this, again, just points out the absurdity
Right.
of this. And I would urge every adult in the room or watching this tonight to think for a minute. You're in another country, you're in the first year you're there, you know nothing about their language, and somebody gives you a math exam written in that country's language. How well do you think you would do?
And how are you going to feel about that? What's that going to do to your confidence? Isn't that in discussion right now with the, maybe the State Board of Education or something, whether to,
Right.
you can probably explain that better than I can.
Well, Indiana's working on how they'll interpret all the new rules under ESSA. There likely won't be any translation allowed still, but there may be some different provisions for how long students might be exempt from the testing and measuring growth instead of proficiency.
And by the way, we're talking about year one, but most studies show that the average adult takes about 7 years to become proficient in another, in a foreign language. So, that's the old joke, what do you call somebody who speaks only one language? An American. But the fact of the matter is that this is what then determines the letter grade for the school, sends teachers home branded failures because they are willing to teach those students who need the most effort. And so we get it, teachers at Fort Wayne Community Schools, we support you. Don't let this get you down. This is $300 per student, which is another indication of just how naive we are to this issue in the state of Indiana. But it's something, thank you for going after it, because every dollar helps.
Not to disagree with your math there, Mark, but
Oh,
it's
did I
more
get
like
that
about,
Oh, sorry about that.
about maybe $40 per student or something.
To be clear, this funding is just for our refugee students, which is a subset of our whole ELL population.
Right. Didn't the state of Florida get an exemption? Or their students aren't counted in accountability, federal accountability measures for 2 years? Did you hear anything about that?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Well,
I think
thanks.
it depends on if you had a plan, an ESSA plan. And they may have had that in their plan, but it doesn't mean it was approved.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd say, Mark, since you mentioned, school grades and teacher evaluations, there's no, the school grading system does not take into account at all, you are compared, there may be a district with absolutely no ELL or not a countable number of ELL students, and a district like ours is graded by exactly the same metrics as a school like that. And I can think of one.
Yep.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now we have a recommendation for purchase of school buses. Any takers?
Well, the only question I would have is, why wasn't this on the consent agenda? I mean,
Well-
it follows the Indiana bid law, right? I mean, how did we, I'm just reading the information, they've extended the existing bids, right?
We don't usually take a bid to the,
Oh.
put it in the consent agenda. There's two parts to this. One is an extension of an existing bid, and the second part is a new bid.
New bid?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
It's recommended that the board extend the school bus bid opened in October 2015 for the purchase of 48 and 84 passenger buses. And the bid is from the Curlin Bus Sales and Service in Silver Lake, Indiana for $2.6 million. That's 3 48 passenger buses and 21 84 passenger buses. And that includes a trade allowance of $171,000 that's subtracted from the total above. It's recommended that an award be made to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder meeting specifications and quality standards for the purchase of 14 passenger activity buses, the little mini buses that you may have seen around town. That opened in December of 2016, and that again is from the Curlin Bus Sales and Service in Silver Lake, Indiana, for $595,374, and that's for 13 minibuses. And that includes a trade allowance of $58,500 that's been subtracted from that total amount before. Indiana purchasing law allows for the extension of awarded bid contracts subject to the agreement of the vendor and the purchasing agency. By extending the 2015 bus bid, bus prices for the 48 and 84 passenger buses remain at the 2015 rate. Bids are part of the scheduled replacement of the bus fleet. Funding for these purchases will be made from the 2017 Bus Replacement Fund. And Frank Jackson, Director of Transportation, is available to answer any questions. We have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Mark.
I do have
Thank
a
you, Glenna.
question.
Yeah, question?
As I understood it, based on the tax caps policy and the impact it's having on our property tax revenue, we've, while these are being purchased in accordance with the replacement schedule, so that's the most important part of this, and and so we have a system in place. I'm kind of saying this for Tom's benefit. It's kind of like our roof replacement plan. We have a schedule, and there's nothing unusual about this. It's meeting the plan. But have we slowed down our replacement schedule as a result of the decrease in the revenues coming in? It seems to me, I remember from last year, or maybe it was the year before, that we were actually extending the schedule to take into account the decrease in the revenues coming in on this for this purpose. Did I remember that?
Yes, that's true. But then when we made the cuts in the 15-16 school year, we did eliminate 52 buses from the bus schedule.
That's right.
So we are getting closer to getting back to the 12-year schedule. I think it's 4 or 5 years from now, we should be.
Yeah, in about 4 years or so.
Get caught
I
up.
think we're about 13 buses behind as of tonight.
But the 12-year schedule was deemed to be the appropriate schedule for these vehicles, but because of the change in revenue, we're beyond that, is what I'm trying to say. So this is really,
We're
when
playing
we
catch-up.
replace buses, they need to be replaced because they're already past the schedule, what would have been the regularly scheduled replacement plan.
That is correct.
Okay.
I have a question also. Did we look at all into buses that would meet Indiana's grant for buses with different kind of fuel and efficiency?
Yes, we did. In
And
fact,
how did that turn out?
we did apply for an EPA grant as well. We were denied, but we're constantly looking at, that type of equipment that would improve the environment. So yes, we do look at those.
Okay, so we were denied.
From the EPA, yes.
But we didn't pursue the Indiana grant for some of the bus replacements?
No, we did not receive any grants for replacement of school buses.
Okay.
Why did the EPA turn us down? Was there a specific reason?
Well, they draw from a hat, actually, and there are several corporations that applied, and so they draw from a hat, and we were unfortunate this time around.
You want to fold it a certain way when they draw.
Right.
There's a science to this, Frank. We
Right.
can talk about
Well,
it.
they should actually just let me draw.
Yeah.
Put it on a different colored paper, too.
That's
I heard
right.
that helps.
Lots of different.
Thanks, Frank.
You're welcome.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, next we have purchase of property. It's recommended that the board authorize the purchase of the following property located near Price Elementary. The address is 2026 Huffman Boulevard. One appraisal was $74,000, the other appraisal was $74,500, purchase price $74,000. The current school site of Price Elementary is significantly below the state minimum acreage recommendation, which is 10 acres. With this purchase, we will still be short 1.87 acres. Purchase of the property in this block will allow flexibility for the school to expand parking or develop grass play areas, parent pickup, or bus lanes. The property will be funded by the CPF allocation for land acquisition and development.
So-
Questions will be answered by Director of Facilities Darren Hess. We got a nice map on the back showing us exactly where the property is. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Mark.
And let me just say
Thanks,
this,
Dan.
I believe, Madam President, this is the fourth or fifth property purchased over there. We've been doing this as they become available at price, along with a few other schools. And so this is consistent with the plan that we started a couple years ago.
What does CPF stand for, Mark? I don't know.
Capital
Projects.
Projects Fund.
Thanks for asking. And we made a vow years ago to be a no acronym sanctuary, and every once in a while we slip back in.
Oh, well, can't be avoided. Hey, Darren, I have a question. What's this little, here's the school, and there's this little black blob right there, or obviously structure on our property. What is that?
The 2022,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an address of a home that we have purchased, and we actually are renting out until we need to use that area. It was a good enough condition we could rent it out.
are we renting to a teacher by any chance?
No, we
Or a
tried.
family that attends Price?
No, we talked about that. They
Yeah.
can try to rent to.
Yeah, yeah.
They're gonna watch the ball games from there too.
And so since Price is in the 2016 referendum project due for renovation, correct?
Correct.
So are there plans to use this property that we just purchased as well as the one next to it, or not? I'm curious.
Well, the plan currently, you look at the site strategically, right now we're using Rosemont Drive for our parent pickup in the morning and, or drop off in the morning and pickup in the afternoon, which causes quite a bit of backup into that neighborhood. So the idea is to eventually move that along Huffman Boulevard so that we can remove that from Rosemont. It's not part of the renovation scope, but it can be added later because that building is listed, like we did in 2012 with some of the savings, we could go back.
So is that because we just don't own enough property right now on Huffman Boulevard to
Currently
do
correct,
anything
yeah.
now?
We still have a strategic home there we need to purchase in the future when it comes available.
Okay. So what about the home that's currently on the property that we're purchasing tonight?
We'll review that, but its condition is not as favorable as 2022.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Darren. All those in favor of authorizing the purchase signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that brings us to, anyone want to take change orders?
I'll take this.
Okay.
These are change orders for a number of projects that are part of the basic renewal, restoration, and safety projects. Interestingly, they are all deducts but for one. So the one increase is $23,595 at Jefferson Middle School. That's really the only one we care about. So if Darren could explain that one, we'll, I'm sure, accept the fact that the rest of them are going down, which is good.
So, all those, do we have a motion and a second?
I'll so move.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Steve. Other than Mark's question, Darren?
Primarily, the largest expense on that one, to make it an ad, we had a second floor set of restrooms that the chase wall for all the plumbing, it was, hidden behind concrete block walls and hidden underneath from a gypsum board deck. So when we opened up that chase to rebuild all the plumbing, we found that the concrete that sits on top of the metal decking had rusted through.
Can we have another problem like this at Jefferson?
That was sanitary sewer lines underneath the concrete. This was actually the
Okay.
second floor deck that had rusted out to a point we didn't feel safe putting new concrete block on top of that, so it had to be replaced.
All right.
Well,
That's all.
okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thanks, Darren. All those in favor of approving the change orders signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now that brings us to approval of the sublease for the Career Academy Health Science Program. It's recommended that the board authorize the sublease of a portion of 1919 West Cook Road with Parkview Health Systems, Inc. to house the Career Academy Health Science Program. The new Parkview Education Center will house Parkview's training and onboarding operations, as well as Ivy Tech's health services training programs and the Career Academy Health Science program. This partnership will allow our instructors to collaborate with higher education and industry experts, gaining firsthand experience and access to resources such as high-tech classrooms and mock patient and surgery rooms. The program includes classroom and laboratory space for the medical assisting, certified nursing assistant, and health and dental career classes. Funding will be from the Regional Vocational School Fund. Conditions of the sublease are as follows. The premises are 12,850 square feet. The initial lease term is for 7 years with 2 additional 5-year terms. The base rent is $8.50 per square foot, or $109,242 per year. The sublease terms also include a construction loan for the initial construction cost of $1,028,160. Repayment begins year 4 at 0% interest, $85,680 per year for 2 years. Beginning in year 6, the interest rate changes to 6%, which will be $114,147 per year for 10 years. Questions, again, will be addressed by Director of Facilities, Darren Hess. So, motion and second?
So-
I'll move.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Steve. So, questions, comments? Yep.
Yeah, quite a few on this one, Darren. Help us understand, well, first of all, basic question, who came up with the $8.50 per square rent on this?
Parkview, who holds the master lease. And this is, I think, the 4th building we've looked at, Faye. And they are subsidizing a good portion of that.
I mean, so who owns the building?
Kathy, do you know the technical, it's RTM?
Yeah.
Is that in that little industrial area that's north of Cook Road there?
It's actually, it's on the north east corner of Cook and Lima. Where the Harris is currently, and they're renting the south part of the building, and we'd be the north pod.
Okay.
So, well, what's the story on this? What, they get stuck with this? It's underutilized? What's going on?
What
How
Harris,
does this work? What's going on?
to my understanding, Harris sold the building to this group, Parkview, the consortium. We've been looking for a site now, is it 9 years? 8 or 9 years, and this one finally was the one we landed on. Parkview needed a space to onboard their employees and train them, and part of the consortium was Ivy Tech, and at the beginning it was Huntington College and St. Francis and Trine. And they actually, Trine and Huntington College went to a building in Carew. And so this was another building we looked at. And it was a building that suited Parkview's needs. I don't know what the actual leased rate will be, but I believe it's anywhere from $14 to $18, and they're subsidizing our portion to be a maximum of $850. Because I believe from day one, they were always quoting kind of $850.
Yeah, Mark, what has happened?
How much of the building or what
Has happened is when we started this consortium with all the other partners, Ivy Tech was not able to join. They were our bridge to going into with the 4-year colleges and that. And so since then, what has happened is Trine and Huntington moved on without us and got placement in the Carew building. That building has now filled up because Randalia ended up not cutting back. And so now there are doctors and others who want to be in that building, so we have no opportunity to go there. Parkview then moved on because they are putting together an educational program for their needs. And so.
And stop right there, so I'm getting this, I think.
Okay.
So Parkview has they have their own educational program
Yes,
for
their own employees and folks like that. So they're starting their own education program, knowing we wanted to be a part of this. They then came back to us in Ivy Tech and said, here's another opportunity for us to partner and for your students to be able to then start in high school and move through past Ivy Tech, actually, in getting medical. So we are able to now move in with them. They are leasing the building.
So, okay, yeah, so who pays, though, who for the services that are provided in the building? In other words, when our students go there for courses, are these, what do you call this, what do you call those?
Career,
Or the courses you take where you get the college credit courses?
Yeah,
Dual credit or
Dual
college.
credit, thanks, Steve. These are dual credit courses. So is the tuition then going to Ivy Tech, or, no, they just happen to be?
Our program is our program,
Program.
our part of the building.
So-
And we are just moving it there because it gives us opportunity to be in better labs, to be able to collaborate with Ivy Tech and their instructors. And so it gives our students the upper hand, actually, in being able to be in a real live environment.
But who, are they paying tuition to be there, or are they just, is
They are
this part of
paying no
their
more than
Fort Wayne
what-
Community School?
Yes. It's the same as if they were at Anthus.
Okay, okay. And so really what it comes down to is, another way of looking at this would be, if we had a building that was well-suited for this, and we wanted our students to learn the health sciences, or we wanted to push them in that lab-oriented direction, we would have to go out and bring people into the building to help teach them these things. It just so happens that it's not our building, still our students, but all the other players come to the building rather than come to us, and our students come to the building. And then I guess the last question, though, is, so Parkview had a need, but the building was bigger than their need? Is that what
No,
what you're
actually,
trying?
they were going to move into another building, the old Raytheon building. And that was cost prohibitive even for Parkview. And so they then started seeking another facility that was going to be a little cheaper for square footage. And really works out better for us because it's cheaper for us as well.
Right, but why did they go out and find us a building? That's the part I
Can I go
don't.
back? This started when Parkview built the new
Right.
regional medical. And what they wanted to do as a part of their partnership with the Northside Neighborhood Association, they didn't want to just leave Randalia as a vacant and along with Carew. So it started as a part of their community outreach. How can we make the best use of the building? What attracted us is we would never be able to afford some of the operating materials, some of the medical things. So it was a part of their community outreach. Well, what happened is the medical industry obviously has exploded. They needed Carew, so they have always wanted to have this still continuing, and it's in their best interest too, because they're trying to train people who want to be in the medical field. Well, what's happened is, the link that works for us is Ivy Tech, because that's some of the partnerships we already have. So this is not trying to change any of the partnerships. Parkview has the resources to make it work. Well, every time they got ready to try to get a building, their own needs expanded. So it's been, to me, a commitment from them to continue to make this work, because they know we don't have the money. So they've tried to find a building that was going to meet their needs. And as they've hired more and more people, they're the largest employer in the county, I guess, then they've needed to have an educational wing. So it's a win-win for us, because we could never afford the medical equipment to train students. It exposes our students, but it's also allowing us, as Faye said, as we're trying to do a lot of other things with limited space, this gives us an opportunity for us to be in an updated facility. So their need expanded. And so they have been trying to find a place that wasn't cost prohibitive for them, but also, can our kids get there? Can we get them there with the transportation limits we have? So I just applaud them for continuing to work to try to help. It's benefiting them, but it's benefiting us, because we could never we can't find a building, first of all, but then we could never pay for the equipment that they're going to have exposure to in this building. So
I
it
really-
started smaller than it is now. It's grown because of the need.
I recall you talking about that when we first were thinking about going into the Carew building. Right, right. Go ahead, Steve.
This has been a long time coming.
long time.
And I really like the idea of having our students in the same building with the largest employer in the region and Ivy Tech. However, I did have a question, if I could, to Faye or Larry with this. Mark brought up the issue of dual credit or early college. I don't know if that's part of the current plans, or is that future potential for this relationship? I mean, I really think that we need to be very sensitive to the fact that one of the issues of the recent presidential election was the struggle of the middle class and its inability to afford college. Dual credit, early college brings college to a level where it's more affordable, and I got to believe that we've got to be doing everything possible to reduce that cost. So my question again is, where is dual credit and early college in the plans for this facility?
We currently do that at Anthus now, and so that program will continue. This just allows
Does this
us
allow us to expand
yes.
credit
Yes.
offerings in
And
this field?
Larry's here, he can speak more to the instructional side of this at Anthus, but we're picking our Anthus program up and we're taking it out there with expanded opportunities.
And then I have one other question for you, Darren. What is the, are you done?
I would thought Larry was going to get up and talk a
I'm
little bit
sorry.
more about that. Could you please?
I sure can. Currently, a student in medical careers programs would get anywhere from 6 to 11 credits in a year. And so right now, when we make that move, that'll remain the same. But as we work with Ivy Tech in that facility, we'll work to add more additional credits as we move forward. So in terms of early college, now you're talking about academics and some other things.
Right.
So I don't see this facility actually turning into an early college facility. It really is about the culture first. Our opportunity, as you said earlier, Steve, to be with college students and adults who are currently either moving into the field or in the field, and they're in that facility working for Parkview and getting their, education opportunities. So there's a culture piece to it. The ease of moving from us to an Ivy Tech, if that's appropriate for a given student. It may not be. They may move on to IPFW or IU or Purdue or wherever. So there will be, though, an enhancement of the partnership. And we already partner with Parkview. We have students that are in doctor's offices, in hospital settings. That's just ramping up right now. That's a second semester thing for our first year students even. So the Parkview piece with the memorandum of understanding that we have now is that will ramp up. So that will be additional opportunities for our students in the real world setting. And being with the Ivy Tech instructors, same floor, will cause some growth as well. The aspect that Dr. Robinson mentioned too, access to equipment and facilities that we would never have an opportunity in our own space, number one, because that will be new. So we'll have more dental chairs, we'll have more hospital beds. The capacity increases within the program itself because the rooms are bigger.
Right.
And
I would just love to see the number of dual credits that our students earn, use that 6 to 11 hour as a base and to build on that. I think that just has tremendous potential for us, and I assume that this facility might allow us to do that.
it may.
How many,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
how many students do you foresee being able to utilize this facility?
Right now, currently, we average about 150 students per year in the 4 teachers that are going to be there. We could have a capacity of about 175 just with those current teachers. So 150 now, 175 would be the possibility in the new facility.
Do we have any waiting lists for those programs right now?
We do in the CNA program. All other classes are at or close to capacity
Okay.
in our current facility.
And is this going to be ready to go next school year? Are we
Yes, we
hoping,
believe
fingers
so.
crossed?
I believe it's, is it July
Looking at you, Darren.
15th or so? It's mid-July that's
Okay.
going to be, if this goes, when it goes out to bid process and all of that, for the general contractor, I believe. Darren knows more about this than I do. It should be ready in the fall. That's what we're counting on.
Yeah, that is really the last question I have. I want to know about this improvement plan. What's the financial arrangement, and how is that, $80 per square foot improvement allowance figured? And tell us a little bit about that. I'm trying to read it real quickly, but
Yeah,
if you could.
the $80 again goes back to, 9 years ago. That's the figure that, when Parkview had their own facilities at Carew and that, they were calculating $75 to $80 a square foot. Now that we've moved on to another building and they're going to have to do quite a bit of renovation to it, again, they're going to subsidize that cost. We won't realize what that final square foot renovation cost is until after they receive bids on January 26th. But their initial estimates already are in the $120, $125 per square foot range. But then we still will not go beyond that 80, so they're going to supplement that construction.
So who manages the just take us through how the construction works. Are we hiring the contractors, or are they hiring, how does that work?
This is set up as a sublease to Parkview. Parkview is working with the developer.
No, it's a sublease to us.
Correct.
Okay.
Parkview is the leasee to the leaseor. And so they are working with the developer to build out the space. So this is a tenant improvement part of their master lease.
Okay. And then, so, let me get this straight. Is their improvement allowance, their $1,028,160 improvement allowance, is that something, whose allowance is that they're allowing us off our?
That's what we are expected to pay them back for the construction that
We're
they.
paying them.
We're paying them for $80 a square foot for the construction that we get to use. But they're, like he said, they're gonna pay higher than that. They're probably gonna pay $120 a square foot, something like that. But we only have to pay them $80 a square foot for the space that we're gonna use for that construction cost. So they've managed, they structured it so that we don't have to start paying it until year 4. And then 0% interest for 2 years, and then they're adding interest into it for year 6 and beyond, for 10 years.
Okay, so they're improving our space, right? These are
space that we're
improvements
going to be
to the
using.
space that we're gonna be in.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're hiring the contractors and they're overseeing the improvement.
Correct. I mean, we'll have opportunity to view it as well and inspect it.
Well, you're paying for it. I mean,
Yes.
they're telling you it's gonna cost, I mean, you don't know. They're saying it's a $120 square foot improvement and they're only charging us 80. That's not, I mean, that's the information that they've shared.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're in charge of the construction, correct?
Correct,
100% with some input from us.
correct. And we've been,
So there are no guarantees yet that they're going to spend at least $80 per square.
right.
They could spend $75 per square, and we have no control over that spending or their design and control of contractors.
I do believe we do. I mean, we've been at every design meeting, and we've been part of that whole process, value engineering, to make it fit and be a smaller per square foot cost. Again, they receive bids on January 26th. We'll have an opportunity to see what those are. But from my experience, just with the renovations we've had in the schools, we're looking at $85 to $90 a square foot, and this is a total complete wipeout and rebuild. So I don't see they're out of line, but I'm sure Parkview will let us work with them to make sure that it will be fair to us at the $8 a square foot. If they see substantial savings, I'm sure they'll share in the savings with us, and that can be negotiated.
Design-wise, they basically said to us, here's the space that you're gonna have, tell us what you need and how it should look. So we're at all the technology meetings, we're at the design meetings, we meet with the architects and talk about what our space will look like. Ivy Tech's doing the same, and Parkview's doing the same.
Okay, and that's the way it should be, because you're paying for it, you know, but there's really nothing, you don't really have that in writing. I mean, that's something that they told you they'll do. I mean, I'm just saying.
We've already started talking with them about that piece, so there's nothing that would say to us that they won't follow through on that.
Okay.
But, yeah, there's nothing that says we just have to take what they give
Yeah,
us.
and what percentage, again, of the space in the building are we using? Are they gonna be in the space?
Yes,
For their
they-
own educational needs, so how does that work out? How?
They have the entire lower level. The second level, we have approximately 30% of that square footage at Ivy Tech with the remaining 70, so 15% of the building. And then we share some common spaces, common restrooms, common area, coffee bar area. And the idea, obviously, with the consortium is so that there is a lot of crossing back and forth between our students, Ivy Tech students, and Parkview. There are a lot of collaboration spaces that they can stop together and see each other. A lot of the spaces in Ivy Tech and Parkview, we're going to be allowed to use their labs and go with their classes to see some of the mock surgery, some of the mock, they have a phlebotomy lab we don't have access to now. Our suite will be 100% secure during the day, so it's going to be locked up. All of our students and our instructors will have proximity badges. So our suite will be secure during the day, but they will have access to Ivy Tech and Parkview spaces for collaboration and additional learning opportunities.
So last question I have then is the document that you gave us to look at it's a pretty standard real estate lease. I mean, it's nothing jumps out at me. I mean, I don't like indemnities, especially for common area injuries. I don't know why we're indemnifying for incidents that occur in common areas. But anyway, but put that aside. What isn't here is the operational kind of agreement that overlays the use of the real estate. Is that something that is that all just going to be by handshake, or all the what I'm saying, Faye? The whole description of the program itself and the interplay between Fort Wayne Community Schools, Parkview, Ivy Tech, does that all end up in a document somewhere?
We have been working, as this consortium started way back when, we actually put together career ladders together that says students would start with us in these programs and then tier into Ivy Tech for these programs. So we have those kinds of structures that we talked about and put in place years ago when we first started the consortium. And so we have a pretty good idea. We already have partnerships with Ivy Tech. We know what classes they currently offer. We have students now going out to Ivy Tech to take classes. So we know what they currently offer, and then we built career ladders for programs that they may be starting that our students can then become a part of as well. So those educational academic pieces were put in place a long time ago.
Including with Parkview?
Not with the Parkview piece. Those are things that we will be working on as we move forward, but we've all along had a part of that. The only role Parkview had in this initially was facility. But now that they are bringing on an educational piece, we do need to add what that would look like for our kids.
Okay.
Right now, it's just a matter of sharing lab space and being able to be a part of some of those classes and things that we don't currently offer.
Okay.
But they were not built initially into that career path.
Okay, well, I'm going to vote for this, but I just want you to know, you're obligating yourself on a lease, and it would strike me that given the dollars involved, you'd also want to memorialize that overlay of the operational piece, because without that, you obviously, we really don't need the space. It's contingent upon these institutions not changing direction based on their own budget changes or change at the top of their organizations. I mean, we need a commitment from them so that no matter who's on their board or whoever their CEO may or may not be, they are bound to complete or to continue working with us on the operational side, because without that, your obligations on the lease are, just
And
that, so.
We do have that with Ivy Tech.
Okay.
And so it's just a matter of what is the role that Parkview
Okay.
is going to play.
Sounds good.
Did Ivy Tech sign their lease already? And is there a clause that if for some reason they back out, we aren't obligated to this lease? Because you said our program has to go hand in hand with Ivy Tech's, and then you add on top of that another layer that's an unknown with Parkview's part in this. Do we have to pay rent for those labs and to participate in those mock surgeries and procedures and so forth?
I'm not sure which day it is, but sometime this week they received their approval from their board of trustees. Ivy Tech does, for this, their part of the lease.
I think the question is, this is and Mark brought up a great point, this is a real estate lease that we're bringing forward to the board, but it's obvious we need to have a larger work session on how all these pieces fit together for the programmatic side and the operation of the building. So I was a part of the very original thinking, and a lot of that thinking, Mr. Giacomo with me at the table, was just that, we don't get stuck. The advantages of this are so great for our students that I don't see that being a problem, because all along the way, Parkview's been very upfront with us about it's their image if they stick the largest school system in the state without having those educational opportunities. Ivy Tech has to have their piece. So I think what you're asking us for is obviously reasonable, because that's the conversation we started. This is the real estate part. We need to bring back the operational part, the curricular part, and how those pieces are going to continue no matter who's in charge. Me, who's at Parkview, who's at Ivy Tech, because the kids will suffer if we start it and then there's no memorializing. So I understand clearly what you're asking for. I think we've got enough of that documentation. We can bring that back and have that as a conversation, even about a public board report, because I think it's fascinating, but I understand what you're asking us for. Two different pieces.
I believe
that go together.
I believe we have a good working relationship with Parkview. I think Parkview will be honest. I don't think Parkview will ever attempt to stab us in the back, but I always get concerned when I see paragraphs on page 8, 5.06 and 5.07, which basically say that if it ain't in this document, it ain't a part of the agreement. And that always concerns me, and I think that's Mark's point, that we need to solidify what our understanding is and perhaps memorialize it as an amendment to the agreement as soon as we can.
But remember, we're just authorizing them to enter into the lease. We're trusting Dr. Robinson and Fay and some pretty smart people to make sure, and Jordan, I'm agreeing with you 100%, partly because you're agreeing with me. But I do think it's important for the board to understand that we're taking the step required by Indiana law to approve the lease, but we've got some pretty sharp cookies doing the actual work to make sure that that operational piece is satisfactory to us.
And we've stopped, it's been almost 8 years, and we've stopped and started for exactly the questions you're asking.
Okay.
So we've got lots of work that we've been doing. We'll bring that back to you. I think we're clear about what you're asking. But we've got to get started with the lease part. And then we'll bring back soon. It won't be another 6 months. We're going to bring that back soon, because there's enough information already out there. We'll bring you back what Ivy Tech did. We'll bring you back what Parkview's talking about. But how's it going to operate? How are we going to know that the lease part is one thing, but what rights do we have for the programmatic and the operation of the building?
Well, I was just going to say, it sounds like, I don't know if I could follow all this conversation from the very beginning, but it just seemed to me like that Mark is saying, I'd like to have certain things in writing.
Yeah.
I mean, could you submit a list or some points that you want to have them bring back in particular? I think that'd be appropriate. I don't know, because I don't know exactly what you're asking for, but I know you're asking for something. And maybe you could.
Right, well, what I'm saying is that there are commitments being made to us that are inducing us to sign the lease, so we want to, and we just, I've been on enough boards, and we all have, that, you know, directions can change with the fortunes of those entities, and we don't want to ever get stuck. Not that we, I mean, I think we could probably use this space or find a new partner, but it would be very inconvenient. So we just want to make sure those institutions are on record saying that that, you know, this is for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, till death do us part. And that's what I'd like to see, so.
And then Kathy, what's the total debt when we add all this together over the 6 years for us to be able to offer this medical career pathway for our students? And who will carry that debt? Does that go on our debt load, is it like for the capital improvement fund, or where does that get accounted for?
Our plan is to pay for it from the regional vocational school fund, and then what happens is then the schools, districts that use the services, depending on how many students they have in the program, part of it will be FWCS, and part of it will be other school districts in counties that participate, will get billed, as they always do, for tuition for their students participating in ANTHUS, or the Career Center programs. So a good majority of that will come from Fort Wayne Community Schools, though, budget, because we have the majority of the students in the program. So I'll have to do some, I don't have a calculator with me, and if I could send you that number
when we have our
later.
report,
I mean,
I
it's
think we'll bring
seven.
our follow-up.
It's, you know, the term is 7 years with 2 additional 5-year terms, so it would be 17 years times the $109,000 per year if we would go all of those terms. And then the construction is the $1,028,160 plus additional interest for those out years, so.
But to clarify, it's almost like ANTHUS Career Center. It's a part of us, but it's a separate entity the way it's set up. And anyone sending students there have to pay tuition, and that's determined by a formula, and maybe we probably need to have that as a conversation. And so I'm asking this question out loud. So when I read this, we're paying all of these lease payments out of the pot of money that's ANTHUS Career Center, vocational fund.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as we put a budget together for what that amount is, that fund covers starting new programs. So we'll lay that out. And so, I don't know, Glenn, if that answered your question, but it's this big pot, and anybody, if Concordia sends kids, whatever their tuition is in the pot, and we're committing a part of the pot to do this.
Right, but
But it is an additional cost.
Right.
of course,
Right.
it's a new
But
cost
we're,
for us to offer.
we're sure
this.
we've budgeted for that.
Well, it'll increase the tuition cost that we charge to the other school districts, is
Okay.
how it will work.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So that's how we'll recoup the funding.
I gotcha.
Like I said, a portion of that will be from ourselves. So,
Right.
yeah.
Madam President, I want to make one final comment. This is it. I just want to compliment Dr. Robinson, Faye, Darren, Kathy, the team. You know, we opened up the newspaper last week to read some fantastic news about New Tech High School. That was just really terrific. The national recognition it's received. And that didn't happen by not being bold and understanding that if we're going to compete, we have to do things like this. So don't take my questions the wrong way. I want to make sure that we're protected. But this is the kind of innovative thinking that this district has become known for. And it allows us to go out to students. I won't mention this family by name, but you know, they had a choice between Bishop Luers and Fort Wayne Community Schools, and they chose Snyder High School because of the health sciences. And that this young lady became a terrific ambassador of Fort Wayne Community Schools. She's now swimming in a national program at the college level. And this is the kind of program that keeps us at the forefront and keeps us competitive. So I want to thank you for seeing the opportunity and seeing it through. Let's be careful that we don't ever end up all it takes is one big mistake, like the Dumoulin Clinic under Mr. Coates years ago, and it can set you back a ways. But this is a good sign that we're not standing still. We're moving forward, and I think it's great. And Larry, thanks for all that you do over there at Anthus. I don't want to forget you, but we got a hell of a team here. So keep it
Yeah.
going.
So, and I just have a couple questions. So what about transportation? So that, because now we're asking students to go to kind of a remote location for classes.
It would be
Is
handled
that-
the same way that we do the Public Safety Academy, so students would gather at the downtown branch and out they go on yellow bus.
Gotcha.
Okay, and
Gotcha.
what Larry
So
said,
they-
Larry's not at a microphone, but he said it would be handled the same way as the students attending the Public Safety Academy.
Okay. And another question, Larry. So
Come up to the microphone if you would.
I assume that this will free up some space at the Anthus Career Center?
Yes, it will.
So we have some plans for that, or
We do, we're in
still
negotiation.
talking?
Yes,
with
we've been
ourselves.
talking about different
Okay,
opportunities
okay,
and
well, great.
options. I'll let someone else talk about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're not quite ready to bring this,
Right,
but they're
right.
all internal kinds of things. One of the things I want to say while Larry is standing here, people don't, Mark was talking about us always looking for opportunities. People bring opportunities to us because they know we're doing right. They know this board's going to ask the right questions. They know that we're not going to just accept anything. And they know that we need to plan out, because one of the theories we have here is if we don't know how we're going to support it for the next 5 years, we don't start it, because it's just in the flavor. But I think one of the things we're also trying to do is to make the best use and we are always trying to attract students who don't go here currently. And so as we're trying to make a move to what's going to happen in this new facility, we're looking at Anthus to see, well, what do we offer there? Because for us to stay viable, we can just shift our own kids around. But the true viability comes when you're attracting kids that hadn't thought of you as an option.
Right.
So we'll bring to you some conversations that we're having internally. Larry's very protective of his space, and he should be, and we always have Larry at the table when we're making conversations. But we'll bring some things back to have as part of a work session, what we're thinking about.
I would like to add, too, that we've been talking about this as a pretty unique program. There are other programs around the state that are in partnership with like an Ivy Tech, as an example, so they're in a common facility like we do with our manufacturing program on Ivy Tech's campus. But I'm not aware of anyone that is in a facility with business and industry, community college or college level, and high school. So it is, I believe, the only program in the state that has all three entities in the same location together. So it is a pretty unique program, pretty good offering for kids.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, and I agree with you, Mark, and Steve, you said before, I mean, anytime we can increase our partnership with, one of the biggest players in the region in the health industry, that is only going to benefit not only our district, but our students, and, that's what it's all about. So, all those in favor of authorizing the sublease of this building signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. And that brings us to the dull subject, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions about this one, the roof project at Southside High School. It's recommended that the board approve the following construction contracts for roofing at Southside High School. There's a bid from Fort Wayne Roofing and Sheet Metal for various roofs at $237,300. Also from Fort Wayne Roofing and Sheet Metal, additional roofing and limestone cleaning for $1.476 million for a total roofing contracts at Southside High School for $1,713,900. The replacements have been identified in our roof replacement plan, which provides for the replacement of all roof segments over a 25-year period. The project was designed by architects from Martin Riley. This recommendation is within the program budget, which is funded from the school building basic renewal, restoration, and safety project. Project specifications require the work to be substantially completed by August 4th, 2017. And there were 2 bidders for one part and only the one bidder for the second part. And we have a nice diagram from Darren showing us all of the areas of roofing of interest.
Move approval for, I do have a question, but I move
Okay.
approval.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Steve. So, questions?
Yeah, I've got one for you, Darren. Darren, are we going to white roofs anywhere?
All of them will be white.
They'll all be white, okay. All right, that's my only question.
Yeah, it's not like, you guys have the black and white drawing, I've got the color drawing, so we've got it in Southside green. So,
Okay, all right.
So the green is white?
it will be white, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is this is a leftover from the 2012 bond project?
The funding, yes. This
Okay.
is paid for out of the savings we received on the first bond, correct?
And is this like the final shot
Pretty much.
for that bond?
We have another Terrazzo RFP coming in, but this is pretty much the last of the pot.
Okay. Okay, very good. Any other questions? Thanks, Darren. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. So that brings us to the end of our new business, and now we have a report, the Family and Community Engagement Center report. As most of you know, we have a new Family and Community Engagement Center just to the, east of us, in what was formerly the Construction Trades Building. And our colleague, Faye Williams-Robbins, is in charge of that. We had a work session earlier with some, where we were shared some information with various new hires that Faye has made, and some old hires also, some old faces. But, so now she will provide us with an update and information on the Family and Community Engagement Center and how it has impacted district operations. Okay?
We will have some handouts that we'll give to you at the end that has some further information and data that you may want to take a look at that helps to fill out some of the information that's not here. So good evening, Board President Hollingsworth, Dr. Robinson, Clerk of the Board, and all of our board members. As Julie mentioned, as you're aware, in June 2016, we opened the doors of the Family Community Engagement Center. And since that time, we have already begun to see the difference that it is making in the lives of our students and the families. And so tonight, we're going to talk about a few of those differences. For many years, Fort Wayne Community Schools has had a pyramid for success outlining the various tiers of support that are provided for students academically and for their readiness to learn. And over the years, many of these supports on the ready-to-learn side of the pyramid have been provided by various departments that have been scattered throughout the district. But for the first time, these supports now rest in one location, allowing for continuity of services and collaboration. The main goal and only purpose of FACE is to help students and families overcome barriers to learning. We work to strengthen relationships with families by aligning systems of support, obtaining funding for programs and services, and establishing partnerships with community resources. When FACE was first discussed, many saw it as only a welcome center, a location where families could go to enroll students. Though we see ourselves as a location that helps to remove barriers to enrollment and increase quality of service to families through the online pre-registrations, online lottery, and a recently developed tracking system for lottery applications, we are far more than just a welcome center. This school year alone, we have seen 800 families through our health services that's located at FACE. 604 students have received vision and hearing screenings, resulting in 77 referrals for professional eye exams, 24 of which received coupons to get free exams and glasses. 62 of those students were referred for further audiology testing. Students that but for FACE would have started school without these exams and struggled with hearing or vision concerns now have that at access. 394 were discovered to have been immunization deficient. 173 families had no insurance, and 100 of those we were able to refer to Brightpoint so they could get assistance in getting that insurance. Realizing that the challenges we now face with charters and, yes.
Remind me, what's Brightpoint? Because I just heard about that. I just read something
Brightpoint
about that.
provides a lot of different services. They are now, also CanI is now part of Brightpoint, but they also help people to determine what kinds of insurances they need. They offer a variety of services.
Okay, thanks.
Realizing the challenges that we now face with charters and vouchers, FACE has also been busy working with the community, and as we talked about tonight, increasing our partnerships like with Parkview, and we also have a Parkview partnership around the birthing center through the person that is responsible for our recruitment and retention, Rhonda, who you'll meet later on, has been working with them to ensure that we can put books in the hands of children who are in the waiting rooms, that we can provide books for new parents, and the packets that they prepare for those parents for discharge will include in that Fort Wayne Community Schools information regarding pre-K and kindergarten. During our summer retention program and growth, we also increased our reach while also decreasing costs, and we're already in the planning stages now for what that will look like this summer. For the first time during our showcase, the contact information was gathered from families, allowing us to make follow-up contacts and to share that information with principals so that they too could contact potential families and invite them to join us at Fort Wayne Community Schools. We have also been working with technology to develop an early alert model score so that we can help to identify students who may be at risk of leaving our school district. This allows us to know what the signs are of a family that may be potentially thinking about leaving us, and to give us an opportunity to have conversations with them before that happens. A couple years ago, I attended a trip with Greater Fort Wayne, Inc., and I had the opportunity to hear about Kalamazoo's Promise. They provide scholarships for students graduating from their high school. FACE is in the process of working to establish alumni associations at the high schools that do not currently have one, with the desire of gaining support from all of those associations in the creation of our own Fort Wayne Community Schools Promise. We currently have Be Instrumental as another piece of FACE that provides support to students who are interested in instrumental music. The excitement around Be Instrumental has energized schools across our district. We currently have 559 more students involved in instrumental music than we did last year across the district. We also have seen a 55% increase in the Be Instrumental schools, the students that are participating in the Be Instrumental schools.
This would be a good time to give a shout out to the Fort Wayne Community School Foundation.
Absolutely.
For those of us who have attended their programs, they are doing a terrific service to the district and its children.
They certainly are. We just finalized conversations, and Mark, you were part of this at the inception with the Sistema, and we're finalizing conversations with the elementary level about starting that program in 2017 with 3 of our elementary schools that will then hopefully ramp that up so that they feed into the middle schools we currently have programs.
And could we possibly, Dr. Robinson, do a program during a board meeting on El Sistema sometime? I think the board would find it absolutely fascinating.
I think the whole piece of it, the El Sistema piece is one that's really the newest piece, but how it all is going to become K-12.
And Bruce is here. I know he would be happy to help us with that.
Great.
Bruce is also planning, what's the date, Bruce, for the big concert that we're? March 25th. Which school?
It'll be held at Northrop this year.
Northrop High School, and that is bringing in all different kinds of instrumental groups across our district for a full-day event, and so you'll be getting information as that comes about.
You know, one of the things we've talked about, and when you had the work session we talked about, is, you know, how do we make not just parents of those students aware of events like that, but how do we, make community members aware? I mean, I see a lot of retirees, all the time, and I think they're interested in events like that.
We are now holding regular meetings with Krista and Melanie, Rhonda, and different folks from the FACE to talk about how we look at marketing, how we get that information
Right.
out.
I mean, even our high school,
yes.
musicals and music programs, yeah.
Right, right. And even our community board, when we had our last meeting, talked about, some avenues that we should really try to put our information out there so folks hear the good news of what's happening all across Fort Wayne Community Schools. Due to the diligent work of the ladies in community programs and the volunteers, we have seen an increase in student participation and study connection. And we also have had 3,313 volunteer applications from individuals wanting to assist in programs in schools across the district on field trips and classrooms just this year. And so what we're looking at is bringing online a safe volunteer program that actually makes that easier for people to be able to go online, put their information in. So right now, all of that is being done by hand. And so what we want to do is, we've already had some conversations about what that might look like, and we're looking forward to getting that up and running. I've often said that if we are not about preparing our students for their future through college and career-ready events and activities, then we are teaching math, science, social studies, etc. to what end? With the opening of FACE, we're now able to support students and school-based counselors at a higher level through college tours and fairs, parent and student workshops, FAFSA, 21st Century Scholars and college application completions, student success seminars, etc. And you'll get information on some of those things that are coming up. We're proud to say that we are trending higher than state averages in completion of 21st Century Scholars, and we just received word last Friday that we have been awarded $50,000 from the Lilly Foundation to restructure our K-12 counseling program. Students need more than just academic support if they're going to be successful. Therefore, FACE is also focusing on the mental and emotional health of students through work with therapeutic counselors, case managers, administrative assistants. Understanding that adverse experiences impact the way that students behave, learn, and retain is critical for addressing their needs. Along with the emotional is the physical, and for those needs, we're seeing more donations with the inclusion of a clothing bank donation bin that is at FACE. In August, we held a back-to-school celebration, and Wendy Horing is here tonight, and she'll get a chance to be introduced as well. We had over 1,000 people come through the doors. Over 800 children received book bags, school supplies, shoes, and if they desired, their haircuts were available, and dental cleanings to help them get off to a great start. As a district, we have had many discussions about suspensions and expulsions. With the ability to now have conversations across positive behavior interventions and supports, which we call PBIS, code of conduct and alternative placements, in comparison to last year's data for the first semester, our expulsions have dropped by 40 students. Having all of the individuals who work in this arena in one location, aligning their work and collaborating is helping to identify gaps and develop ideas for closing them. Along with the behavioral alternatives as we talk tonight, we have the opportunity to work with Parkview and Ivy Tech in getting our students working alongside professionals in a real-life environment. FACE is just beginning, and we realize that we are not without our hiccups, but each day we strive to be better than the one before. It is through the support of this board and others that we work with that you see there on the screen that we are able to know where the needs of our children are and try to put structures in place to address them. And we want to thank you and those who helped to provide us that kind of support. We had a family that came to the center earlier this year, and there was an article that was done in the paper and on Wayne TV about some of these families. And we were the impetus of that family becoming involved with Vincent House and some of the others. But this family showed up at the center, and they really just wanted to know what school is my child going to enroll in. But through the conversations and the opportunities we have to really sit down with people and have one-on-one conversations for longer periods of time than just saying, here's the school you go to, goodbye, we were able to find out that they had just recently been evicted, had no place, didn't know where they were going to sleep that night. Children needed things in the way of clothing. They didn't have book bags. They didn't have school supplies. And because we had all of those people there in the center able to get in one room and talk about what they could do from their own piece, that family left our center that day not only with information about what school they were going to attend, but they had left with school supplies, with clothing, and with a place to stay that night. And so that's due to the work of the folks in the center.
That's terrific.
That is awesome.
Life brings about many challenges, in many ways for all of us. And there is a word that I shared with some of the folks at FACE, and that is sonder. And it means the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. When we think about the fact that we are working through our own challenges, needing help, and understanding from others to sometimes just get through the day, it opens our eyes to our role in helping each other. We at FACE are here to help our students and families overcome barriers to learning. And I would like to now introduce our amazing staff from FACE. And if you'll stand and just keep standing when I call your name. Chad Hissong, Director. Sheila Menz, Assistant. Kyra Nolan, Student Placement Manager. Liz Bryan, Personalized Education Manager. She works with all the alternative programs. Johnny Grimes, Student Support Services. She works with PBIS, Code of Conduct. Wendy Horing, Homeless Liaison Coordinator. Rhonda Laddick-Moxter, Retention and Recruitment. Martin Murphy, College and Career Readiness Coordinator. Shanita Piper, College and Career Readiness Manager. We have support staff, Kim Holloway, Josepha, Sherry, Latira, and Michelle. They were not able to be here tonight. Jessica Swinford, Community Programs Coordinator. And then she works with Sarah Hudson, Janine, Polly, and Michelle. We have Liz Kaywood at the natatorium. She's the director. And Liz asked, what can I do to help when we talked about literacy being a focus? She is now collecting books when people come to the natatorium that then she and her staff are going through and figuring out with help from our central office what grade levels and Lexiles those books are, and then are able to distribute those out to schools. That's their part from the natatorium and helping with our literacy effort. We also have Naylee Collins and Ed Center, Natalie McLaughlin, who's our head nurse, Charlotte Adams, and Zaida. And Bruce is with Be Instrumental, and Fred Hunter is our technology person. They are absolutely amazing to work with every day. Thank you.
Can I just say something? Tonight, Faye talked an awful lot about services that are provided. And one of the things we will be demonstrating as we grow is that FACE, while everybody has a story that we don't always know what that story is, we want FACE also to become the place that people who don't necessarily have something that's a barrier, but that they see that building and come to find out all the great things. So one of the things I appreciate about Faye and her student recruiter and all the other people who are connected to FACE is some of the ideas that they're starting to generate are ideas that we in education have normally not tried to do because we didn't think that's what educators do. But we are in a very competitive market, and we want FACE to be the symbol for where you can come to find how we're stretching ourselves, because everybody doesn't necessarily have a barrier. But where we've got to recruit people are those students who are the students at the high end who are looking for different opportunities and education delivered a different way. So I just want to have you understand, they think that way too. We have to take care of basic needs first, but part of their goal is to strive to be that beacon in the community that you come because you know there are great things happening and you can be pinpointed and directed to those great things. So thank you very, very much.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the meeting. So now our
This is just my addition.
comments from board members. Steve?
Well, I wanted you to meet Pox. This is a gift
Pox
from
upon you?
Pox the Fox. This is a gift from Elizabeth Dickmeyer and her third grade class at Lincoln Elementary. I think I've been sharing with you the fact that we have been reading a 226-page book with the students. What was one visit became 5. We completed the book last Friday, and it took all my energy to stay composed and not cry at the ending of the book.
Uh-oh.
It was quite dramatic.
Not like
But,
a yearling, is it?
The card that came with Pox said, "The Fox is to remind you of our time together and the love of reading you fostered in our room." And so they signed it. There's a picture of the class, and when I was sharing this with Glenna, she encouraged me, and I think it's a great idea. We're going to a national conference, National School Board Conference in Washington, D.C. We're going to visit with our congressmen and our United States senators, and I am bringing Pox with us, and also the picture of the faces of the 25 students in the class, because it is quite a diverse group of kids, and just want to remind them of who we are and the students that we represent. So Pox is going to D.C.
That's great. And maybe next meeting, you can give your book report during our report section.
I can.
Okay.
We can find out if we want to read that.
Glenna?
And as Steve already referenced, we are going to be going to DC, and there is a new administration as well as possibly a new Secretary of Education will be coming in. But part of our challenge will be to remind our congressmen that we need to support our public schools, and not just support them, but also to highlight the choice that we as public schools offer parents and students within our community. And obviously, the recognition we just got for Wayne New Tech, and also the brand new program that we're trying to start in the medical field so that our students will have opportunities to give them a leg up on other schools and students that won't have that opportunity if they're interested in a medical career, which is, again, one of the hot areas if you're looking for a good job once you graduate, is something that we can emphasize when we go there. And so I just really want to commend Dr. Robinson and her staff for the forward thinking that they have done and the boldness that they have taken, recognizing that we are in a very competitive environment, and that if we are to survive in the future, we're going to have to be able to show the successes that we've had with choice, school choice here within our own district.
Nothing tonight?
Thanks, Tom. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I want to repeat something that that I had posted on my Facebook page concerning the comments made during the President's inaugural address, where he stated that the educational system was flush with cash and failing its students. I don't have time, nor do I frankly have the inclination to respond to the notion that our teachers are failing our students. They're not. Society oftentimes, I think, has failed our students, the little ones. And I don't want to get into whose fault it is that the parents are not taking care of their babies, but it sure as hell doesn't fall on the shoulders of a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old. And so we do a darn good job when we get our opportunity with these young people to get them to the point where they're walking back down an aisle with a diploma in their hands, as evidenced by our 89% graduation rate. But I do want to address the issue of our being flush with cash. I think it's important that we remind our constituents and those who represent us in Washington that there was a $300 million cut in education spending in 2010. We suffered 30 million of, or 10 million of that 300 million here in Fort Wayne Community Schools. After 5 years, there were state officials boasting about a $1.5 billion surplus. I made some math mistakes earlier tonight, but I'm pretty sure I know what 5 times 300 million is. And so it is not, I don't think, a stretch to say that Indiana built its surplus on the backs of public education in the state of Indiana. Now, add to that the $8 million we lose from the constitutional tax caps. In other words, money that the previous system allowed us to receive within the parameter of the Bowen property tax freeze. Monies that other districts get, but we lose because our residential property is already at the cap. So that just disappears. That's 8 million. And then when you consider finally on top of that, the money diverted from public education as the result of our decision to fund religious schools, you can see that we are not flush with cash. We're doing everything we can to provide the kinds of programs that we saw presented here today, because we know, as Glenna just pointed out, that those are the kinds of programs that keep us competitive. But any notion that this board simply directs surplus amounts for which there is no critical need is false. And I would ask, that anybody who believes that, please disabuse yourself of that notion. We do the best we can, and we're doing a good job. Dr. Robinson and your team, again, deserve a lot of credit. But I want to respond to that notion, because nothing could be further from the truth here in our district.
Thanks, Mark.
I don't have anything.
Jordan?
Nothing.
Dr. Robinson?
Nothing at this point. We are off to a successful second semester, that's all I'll say.
Great.
We'll be doing more reports, and what we intended to bring some of our teachers and students to the board to talk about some of the things we're doing.
And again, I want to congratulate you, Dr. Robinson. I mean, both the presentation here tonight on the FACE Center, and then the partnership with Parkview, like Mark said, that's just, evidence of the innovative thinking of you and your staff, and just wanted to congratulate you on that. It's just another thing that makes us a great district, all of the opportunities and programs that we offer. Like Mark mentioned, I know that teachers were happy to hear that school systems were flush with cash, because now they can stop spending their own money on their students. Right. And since Glenna mentioned choice and the public school choice, I'd like to remind everyone that choice means that private schools get to choose their students. They can also unchoose them. Whereas, public schools accept everyone without judgment. And another part of the flush with cash statement was, that our educational system deprives students of knowledge. So I would like to give a shout out to a young man named Truman Bennett, who attends the traditional public school of Marion High School, and he is one of only 18 students in the world who earned a perfect score on the AP Calculus AB exam. And as someone who taught that course for about 12 years, that is an incredible achievement, another success for public school. Wow. Yeah. So we have a work session on Thursday, correct? Thursday, 5:30 right here. On Indiana legislative issues, and of course, work sessions are open to the public, just like board meetings. On Indiana legislative issues around education and, how we can deal with those. I noticed that the first education bill passed today. that it passed the Senate, but I think that high schools have to offer an Indiana history course, I believe,
It's civics.
Yes.
and civics. Was that what it was,
Civics,
Indian history and civics?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Which is interesting because we spent a whole year saying we were going to reduce testing. And so
Well, I don't know, did it include the civics test in the bill? I think it was
That's
just
one
that
of
you
them
have to
does.
offer a course. I think that's a different bill.
It's a different bill, but the
Right.
point being is now we're going to have to teach it, and then they're going
Right.
to want to test it.
Right. Okay. That's all I have.
Kathy, when's the city council tax?
31st.
Tuesday.
Okay.
There you go.
31st.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Don't let me forget that, I'm on
Yeah,
the agenda.
31st at 5:30.
So, yeah.
And then we have a sectional game that night, right, Kathy? Yeah. Okay. Well,
Thanks.
seeing no, Steve?
Yeah.
Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. We adjourned. Thought it loud, didn't you?